Okay, we're going to go over the swimming medal and then the overdose that destroyed my nervous system. But most of this is to explain my mother's mental illness, how my father let her get continuously mentally ill, even helped her move around the country, making it harder for me to get help once when teachers put me in physical therapy, speech therapy. This is in Westford before age 8. Anyway, so I'm out of the orphanage and I'm living with new parents that literally just adopted me. They just adopted me. I'm playing in another room with a bunch of Legos. In this Lego box, I come across the swimming medal from my orphanage. I look at the swimming medal, I go, oh, I bet my new parents would love this swimming medal. Okay, let's show it to them. So I take the swimming medal through a hallway, see my mother in a chair, and I go, Mom, look at the swimming medal I won. Now, isn't that the cutest thing you ever heard? A little orphan boy has a swimming medal from his orphanage. He's in the Lego box, he finds it, and he wants to show it to his new mother because he's getting attached to this new mother and father. He's very attached. He loves this new mother and father very much, and he wants to have a family and a home so bad. So now he's trying to show, oh God, this is stressful, trying to show this swimming medal to his mother. So yeah, I show this swimming medal to my mother. I say, look. Guess what my mother does? Do you think she goes, good job, now play with your Legos? Or, oh, that's nice, go. No, my mother was mentally ill, remember that. My mother takes the swimming medal, snatches it out of my hand, and goes, you're a liar! You're a thief! This has to be a black kid's medal. No, Corey is the athletic one. Yes, he's the athletic one. Yeah, this is not your medal. You're a white kid, small, and you couldn't be winning no swimming medal. No, and look at this. On the back, you wrote ZG to get back at me, didn't you? You wrote ZG to get back at me. How dare you? How dare you try to write your old name on stuff to get back at me? And by the way, this old name delusion that my mother and father had, that extended all the way to age 15. I took a poetry class. In the poetry class, they told us to pick a not real name, something that is not at all your real name. So the class told me to pick a name that is not real. So some people just switched the letters in their name. Some people chose to put their name backwards. Some people did stuff like that, or they just picked a weird name like Cat Thunder or something. Now, I'm trying to think of a name that's not real, that is not really my name at all, but represents me in some way. Oh, my old name, my Zachary G. That's not a real name. That's not my name, so that counts, but it still represents me because it was my born name. So yeah, that's a good one. So I put Zachary G. You're not allowed to put your real name. Remember that. The whole point of this poetry class is to pick a name that's not yours. So I picked a name that wasn't mine anymore. My mother and father lost their fucking minds. How dare you put your last name on this? That's not your name. Well, that's the whole point. I'm not supposed to. Well, you should have put your real name down. No, I would have failed the class if I put my real name down. Well, then you should have made up a name. I did. I used my old name. And they lose their minds with me just because I did what the teacher asked in a poetry class. And by the way, my poems were highly sought after. I always was the top of my class in poetry. I mean, my mother was destroying my health and I didn't understand what was going on. I'm also goth and it's really, really destroying my mind. So poetry was a good outlet for me. But they don't read the poetry. They don't spend any time talking to me about the actual poetry. Instead, they belittle me and they cause me what they call berating abusive behavior. My mother would berate me with abuse. That's one. Or she would drug me too and stuff like that. So this continued from all the way my life with her. But we're going to go back to the swimming medal. So anyways, I show this swimming medal that I won in the orphanage to my mother. Now remember, the staff member during the swim class wrote ZG because that was my name. But now my mother brings me to the doctors with this swimming medal. She says, I need pills for my son. My son needs to be on drugs. Look at this medal. He has attachment disorder. Meanwhile, that medal, me showing that to my mother means I'm getting attached to her. Quite the opposite. But my mother's mental illness is not being treated. And no matter how many times I cry and beg for help, beg the doctors to get involved, beg Massachusetts to get involved, beg my father to get involved, he just allows her to continue hurting me. So anyways, she goes, this medal my son brought me, he stole it from another kid. He's writing his old last name to get back at me, and he's making up fantasies, my mother says to the doctor. Now I'm crying. Give me my medal back. Give me my medal back. Please, don't steal my medals away. She's lying. She's lying about me again. Please give me my medal back. The doctor looks horrified, turns back to my mother. Is this true? Then my mother gets really mad. No, it's not true. I saw him put his last name on this. I know he put his last name on this just to hurt me. He's out to get me. He's writing his name, and he stole it from the black kid. I know he did. Now, that's all lies. I know because I was there where the medal came from. I was there when I won the medal. I was the one who treaded my legs the longest. The orphanage was trying to build up our self-esteem. That was the whole purpose of this, was to build up our self-esteem. That's the same reason why I got the award for best behaved child. That's the reason why they wanted me to go to second grade. The teachers wanted me to go to second grade. I passed first grade. It was time for me to go to second grade. I was nowhere. I was almost on the top of my class. You would probably rate me at like fifth or sixth. There was like 30 kids, maybe 20 kids in this class. No more, no less than 20, no more than 30, something like that. And I was at least at the 15th spot, something like that. Now, all my classes are passed. I'm fine. I can read at a good level. I can write at a good level. I can do everything at a fine level. The teachers know this. They need me to go to second grade. But once again, my mother's mental illness gets in the way. She starts telling the teacher, no, you need to keep him back. He needs to be older than the other kids. You need to hold him back. You need to hold him back. No, I want him to redo first grade. Well, the teacher tells my mother, no, you can't get your way. Well, whenever my mother couldn't get her way, she would lose her mind and she would start doing stuff that's illegal or not allowed or very bad. For instance, my mother didn't want me to go trick-or-treating. So the other kids, my father said, no, let him go. That's what the costume is for. And everybody's saying, let him go, let him go. And my mother gets overruled. My mother wasn't getting her way, so guess what my mother did? She said, Zach, come over here and take your meds. She slips me some meds with my regular meds, and all of a sudden I vomit, get pale, and get sick. My mother goes by the bathroom and says, Zach's sick, you can't go out. And now I don't get to go out to Halloween. She did this during 3 Halloweens where she slipped me pills because I was allowed to go out, and she didn't want that. Well, the same thing happened at first grade. My mother had me held back, but she had to yell at the teacher, tell her, no, you hold her back. I'll pull him out of this school. I'll call my lawyer. And she's yelling on the phone. She's demanding that I get held back. And my father will say, she's not like that. No, she did it out of love. It's a mental illness, Dad. Anybody who is there and would be tracking these behaviors at home would know this. But I was only a child. I had no idea that my mother had a problem until I started becoming an adult and after she already died from her mental illness. Well, my father's also hiding. No, she died of old age. Most people don't die before retirement of liver failure as they drank a martini with liver failure. People don't drink martinis with 20% of their liver working. Also, did you tell the doctors about the fact that she popped a Vicodin, what was prescribed to her son? Did you let the doctors talk to your son about some of her behaviors? And did you tell the doctors how she drank the one day she was home with liver failure? Did you tell them that? Well, no, of course not. Well, that's why you didn't get the proper treatment. But he did it out of love. He wanted her to take a liver that was meant for some 10-year-old and destroy it with alcohol. He didn't realize the consequences of his actions. If my mother had got a liver, she would have destroyed it in no time. And then some other 10-year-old out there would have died. And I know this for sure now. But at the time, I had no idea what was going on. My father was keeping everything from me. I didn't even know I was on Social Security till age 20 when my father had to go to court because he lied to the Department of Health, he lied to the housing program I was in, lied to me, and lied to Social Security so he could use the Social Security for his big house. As soon as he got in trouble for that, he sold the house and kept the money. So there's a bunch of shit. And I got lost my housing. I moved into that house, and then he sold the house so I had nowhere to live, and then he just blamed me for everything. So this continues to this day. I'm 32 and I'm going to die soon from these behaviors. I got an 89-year-old. I got a dead mother. I got a roommate who needs help. Now, if my father wasn't doing these things to me, my roommate would have got the help he needed years ago. But nobody will listen to me no matter how much I bring forward pictures, videos that speak for themselves. As I point to medical records, nobody ever spends the time. They all just rather have me dead. If I tell somebody to spend the time fixing this with the Supreme Court or the federal government or Social Security, the minute I'm not able to speak or it gets too confusing or weird for them, they just drop out. Or the first time my father gets a lawyer involved, everybody runs off scared. So that's not really gonna work. I'm just gonna have to die for other people. That's it. I have to die for other people's sins, if I like it or not. I have no rights either. I'm not allowed to work. I'm not allowed to use a shelter. I'm not allowed to drive. I'm not allowed to do any of those things until my disability is established on paper. What doesn't look like it's ever going to happen. They have to tell them everything that happened to me during childhood and reestablish my medical case, because all my medical records are based off a nutty woman's fantasies. So when I go to the doctors, I have to live in fantasy land. Well, that's not going to get me medical treatment. So anyways, my mother takes this medal from me. She refuses to give it back. I'm crying myself to sleep every night. She gets a bunch of drugs from the doctor. They put down attachment disorder. They put down fantasies. They put down theft. And now my mother is destroying my confidence, destroying my mind a little more. So anyways, my mother continues down this road, and she continues to do crazy things. She tries to pour a whole bottle of Ipecac into a cup and tells me to drink a whole cup of Ipecac. And she then brags about, yeah, I gave my son extra Ipecac, so what? It was a punishment. I'll give him any extra medicine I feel is necessary because I'm his mother. I'll give him extra medicine to slow him down whenever I fucking feel like. This is her attitude. And she's even said this out loud. She said these exact words in front of me, my sister, who is, by the way, a government worker with government clearance that's almost old enough to retire, her husband, and my father. My mother said these exact words. Yes, I gave him extra medication, so what? Yeah, I gave him extra Ipecac, so what? Then I asked, do you think it's okay to give a child extra medication he's not prescribed? And then my mother said, sure, it is allowed because I'm his mother. Does anybody see the problem in this, I say? I look around the room and says, anybody see a problem in that statement? I say, I sure do. My sister goes, well, of course. And then her husband goes, well, yes. And then my father goes, no, she can drug him all she wants. He goes, yeah, no, she can do whatever she wants type attitude. I think he said the exact words were, no problem with this. No, I don't see a problem. Something like that. Then my mother goes, no, there's no problem with that. And then we're all, oh my God, as soon as my father says no, because we expect these crazy bullshit from my mother. Me, my sister, everybody in the family expects my mother to hurt me. We've all seen it. They all warn me about my mother being crazy, and I've seen it. So we all expect that. So we're not horrified by her hurting me or saying something like that. But then my father says no, and we all gasp. How could my father say that? He's actually all together. He's not crazy. So this has gone on long enough. I'm 32 years old, and it's time for me to die soon. Yep, and my roommate is 84, and he's not getting any help. Today, I set him up to get a restraining order against a guy named Jeremy. This Jeremy, I have video of him coming over and spitting on David, hitting David, going and following me around, trying to drive me off the road with a car. We actually presented this video to the police department. But here's the problem. David is so senile, he never showed up for court. He doesn't read his mail. He doesn't show up for court. Intimidation works on him. And just today, he's doing a phone call with the courts. Now, did he ask his worker to help him with this? No. Did I know about it? No. The last time I heard about this restraining order was when I dropped them off about a couple weeks ago. Well, why didn't David tell you about it? I mean, if you're helping David so much, why wouldn't he just tell you, hey, I got court tomorrow. Can you sit by me and just listen? Why would David not ask for help? Because he's senile and nobody is helping him. They're all labeling him fine, he's fine, as he burns down the house and I have to crawl across the floor in smoke. Yeah, one day I woke up in the bedroom and I'm vomiting and choking up and I can't breathe. Oh my God, the whole bed is covered in smoke all the way down to the floor almost. So I have to roll off the bed to the floor to get a breath. I can't breathe because he's lit a whole trash can on fire in the house. So now I'm on the floor, crawling on the floor, and they have reports of this. Every single person in the building reported this. Every single one. Even the landlord got like 8 reports of this. Of course they did. Every fire alarm in the whole building was going off. But nobody told me. Nobody woke me up. David left me to suffocate in the bed. I started suffocating. I couldn't breathe. It woke me up out of a sound sleep and I'm choking. It's like somebody strangling me around the neck. So then I flip out of bed to the floor. I just kind of roll off and I'm trying to breathe. I crawl my way out. As soon as I get out of the apartment, I kind of get to the stairs and I drop down. I just stand up and go down the stairs so there's fresh air down the stairs. Then I take a deep breath. I go outside. Every single neighbor is outside. All of them. I go, where is that motherfucker? I'm going to fucking kill him. Where the fuck is he? I finally find him. He says, oh, it was just a trash can fire. Like it was no big deal that every single neighbor, every single alarm was off, and he didn't even wake me up. He left me to suffocate and die again. Now, they say this is fine. No, he has no problems. No, we should listen to David over Zach. This guy who's lighting stuff on fire and putting people in danger, who can't show up for court, can't speak in court. Yes, during his own eviction, the only thing David did is try to bring a piece of paper that had nothing to do with the case. Well, why is that a problem? Because then the landlord or the judges or the workers don't listen to me. They think somehow if David is crazy, that must mean I'm crazy too. And I'll give you an example of this. During our eviction, David tried to bring a piece of paper and wasted the judge's time. The judge asked, is there anything you want to present? David tried to present a piece of paper to a medical record that had nothing to do with proving that you tried to pay your rent. The landlord's claiming we didn't try to pay our rent. I have video footage of me trying to hand him money in a letter as he grabs me and starts kicking me on the floor. And I took this beating. I didn't respond. I didn't do anything because I knew the camera was right there. So I would want to present this in my eviction case because it shows me trying to pay my rent, right? So I take out the video and I say, Judge, I'd like to present you a video of me trying to pay my rent. Then the judge goes, well, isn't that of the assault? I said, yes. He goes, well, that's a case for October 28th, so I'm not going to see it. But the reason why the judge was acting like that is 5 minutes prior, somebody was trying to force a piece of paper on him, wasted his time that had nothing to do with the case. Now I'm trying to show him a video of an assault, but it also shows me trying to hand money to the landlord on camera because he's refusing to take the money. Now the landlord has done this game with many other tenants to throw them out. He refuses to take your money, and then he lies to the court saying you refuse to pay him. He just lies to the courts, lies to the courts, lies to the courts. Well, I have video of me trying to pay my rent. Now, it shows me with a piece of paper and money around my gut. And why? Because I'm having a hernia, kidney, and GI issue. Well, why ain't I get any hernia surgery? Because the hospitals won't even look at me. Every time I go to the emergency room, my father says everything is a story. It's all a lie. It's all a fantasy. So they think I'm going there for attention when I'm bleeding internally into my testicles or when my kidneys were doing something weird and my urine turned black. I took pictures and videos of the blood filling into my testicles. I took video of the urine coming black. I showed this to about 20 different people, co-workers, managers, people, and they all said, you're going to die if you don't get that taken care of. So I went to the doctors, but the emergency room won't even look at me. Why? Because they think I'm there to show off my pee-pee and ballsy. My father says I'm some fantasy kid who wants to go over showing his pee-pee and balls to doctors. I love hospitals, my father says. He's doing it for attention. It's all some immaturity issue and a mental illness. Don't waste your money and time on him. He's my son, but don't waste your money. I pay taxes. I don't want to waste it on this kid. So then the doctors listened to my 89-year-old father, and then I'm cut off of all medical care again. My father and mother are very good at cutting off all medical care for me, so my injuries get worse. And then when I go to court for a separate issue, and they start asking my doctors, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? We don't know. All we know is he has a mental illness and he's making up stories. All we know, that's the reports we got. That's the reports we got. We got 25 reports that this kid's a fantasy spinner. How many times have I created a fantasy or a lie in my life? Zero. 0 times. Now, I've been mistaken in my life, especially with my mother trying to purposely confuse me with medical things. So absolutely, I was confused to hell. But now I'm 31 years old. I've spent 25 years. I'm an adult, and I know when something is deadly or wrong. So I've been reporting these incidents, the fires, my roommate's senile behaviors, the seizure in the bedroom, and the weirdness, and how the doctors wouldn't treat me. But instead, I get my mental health affected by the actual doctors. My primary care, I asked them for a wheelchair so I could get my CT scan done. They said it was unnecessary. So they said if I don't get a CT scan done, they're not going to help me. So I'm left with an option. Don't get help at all, or crawl onto a bus on my hands and knees while people pull out their cameras, taking out pictures. Then I get off the bus, crawling on the cement. Then I have to go through 4 lanes of traffic on 108. I have to go through a fucking crosswalk on my hands and knees, crawling. Then I have to go into the hospital and get the CT scan done. What do you think they make me do again? They say they lost the CT scan, you're going to have to do it again. So then I crawl on my hands and knees, I get on the bus, people pull out their cameras to take pictures of me, I get off the bus, and I crawl. The third time, they say, oh, we lost that one too. So then I take both of my canes and I call my aunt, who's married to my father. And now only because I want them to know the damage and the suffering I'm going through because of them. They should know that this isn't normal behavior from a doctor. And then they're like, well, why? Because you guys are making up stories about me. Remember, the 9th commandment is there for a reason. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. That goes for your son especially. But 25 years of storytelling about me. But the problem is, as my mother creates fantasies and stories about me, then she says I'm creating stories and fantasies about her. And because I'm only 7 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, they don't listen to me. I'm not paying the bills. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. My mother and father are paying them. So when I say my mother is hurting me with these stories, and my mother says I'm the one who has fantasies and stories, what do you think the doctor did? They wrote down this, causing me more pain, more suffering. Well, eventually they saw you fall. I mean, come on, Zach. The teachers must have saw a sudden change during this overdose, right? Yes, they sure did. But my mother brought me to Texas, cut off all doctors, all teachers after that. Well, how about in Texas? Did you tell the doctors in Texas about your problems moving your body? I sure did. But my mother cut me off of doctors and teachers in Texas and put me in New Mexico where there was no doctors, there was no teachers. There was a psych doctor that owned the building and it wasn't built yet. Via Santa Maria in New Mexico, if you pull up pictures from 1999, 2000, 2001, that's what it looked like when I was there. Not these fucking, they hadn't have it built yet. They were using parents like mine to get money to build a new facility, but the place wasn't built yet. So if you want to look up pictures of Via Santa Maria, remember, there was no pool, There was no buildings. There was just two white buildings for the staff members and to show us off with the parents on Christmas. And then there was a cabin for us and a big field of rattlesnakes and things where they kept on saying to my father, well, eventually we're putting in a pool there. Eventually we're putting in a pool there. Yeah, my father paid for the pool. But I wasn't there for that. That didn't come until like 2005 probably, and I was long gone by then. So my father sued this place, got his money back, and I had no health care, no teachers, no doctors, and I'm now missing about 2 years of education. You could call it 3 if you want. So I have no education. Did my father bring me to the doctors after suing these people? No, he brought me to a psych doctor. My mother made up more stories about me, and I was only allowed to talk about how New Mexico was abusing me. Anytime I tried to bring up my mother would drug me heavily. Just drug the shit out of me and slow me down. Well, okay, after that you got education, right? No, they homeschooled me in Maine. After New Mexico, I was homeschooled in Maine, and I still didn't get doctors. Well, how about after that? You stayed in Maine, right? Nope. Then I was brought to Massachusetts. And, well, you got doctors there, right? Nope. I got the same primary care as childhood, and nobody wanted to listen to me. No matter how many times I brought up this overdose that my mother called an allergy attack, nobody listened. Every single time the doctor asked me, do you have any allergies? I would bring up this overdose, how it destroyed my nervous system. I lost my vision. I couldn't feel my hands or feel my body. I lost all my senses. I would bring this up over and over and over and over as I got worse and worse and worse. Now I'm 31. I have seizures on the side of the road. The doctors won't treat me even when I'm bleeding internally. Of course they're not. My father told them to save their money. And I'm on state insurance. I can't work. The jobs won't allow me to work falling down in front of customers, bleeding all the time. Well, how about the shelter? Can you live there? No, you have to be able to move your legs on command. If in the morning, if you can't move your legs right away, you're not allowed to come back until you have medical paperwork. Well, then get the medical paperwork, you're probably thinking. Just get the medical paperwork. Oh, nope, the doctors won't give it to me. I've spent 6 years asking for just 2 things. I need a piece of paper describing what happened to me during my childhood and the illness I have and the lack of movement in my body. I need paperwork describing this illness, what my illness is, what caused it, stuff like that. And I'm going to need epilepsy medication. Then I can take that to anywhere I move to, and I don't have to get hurt or die. But no, that's not allowed thanks to my father. Well, how about this landlord? Why would the judge believe the landlord? Well, for one, David is answering questions that he doesn't even know what they asked of him. Like, for instance, the landlord claims we're just trying to get back at him for the eviction. Now, that's not true. We've been trying to do this for 3 years. The eviction just started. So it's very obvious to anybody looking at my evidence that this has been going on for 3 years. Welfare, code enforcement, Christine, anybody can go as a witness in court that this has been going on for a long time. Even the police themselves have video of Jeremy spitting on David in 2019. So this has been going on for a while now. But the judge doesn't know that. Why? Well, the clerk in the desk asked David, a senile old man who needs medical help right away, a simple question. Are you trying to get back at the landlord for an eviction? And David goes, oh, of course I am, yes. Well, now the David just lost his own case and got mine thrown out of court. Now David is bringing me down, working for the landlord. The landlord says, no, David and Zach are just trying to get back at me for an eviction. And now he has to prove that. Now the clerk asked David, a senile old man, are you trying to get back at the landlord for an eviction? And David goes, of course I am, yes. Without understanding what he just said or the consequences of what he's saying. Then he says, no, I'm not trying to get back at him. I just want this all fixed. I want the courts to fix this. But he didn't say that. He said yes to the question. And then they asked him trick questions like this. Code enforcement said, well, it looks like, or it seems like from what I'm hearing from the landlord, remember, code enforcement is listening to the landlord over me, thanks to my father and this 84-year-old, thanks to an 89-year-old, a 84-year-old, and the fact that I have a disability that everybody just thinks, oh, it's some mental illness. That's your fault because you're just mentally ill. You should stop falling down. You should stop reporting stuff. But if I stopped reporting stuff, then I would have been out of my fucking house a year ago. I would have been dying on the side of the road. People need to know if an old man is in danger of lighting everybody on fire, or if an old man licks somebody's ear out who's bleeding on the ground. Yes, I had a seizure. My head smashed across the table. Blood squirted on the wall. I went unconscious, had more seizure activity because my whole body was all carpet scraped up when I woke up. Yes, I was seizing so bad that I got carpet burns all over my body. And when I woke up, I said, get me an ambulance, please, I need an ambulance. Then an 84-year-old senile old man comes in the room, thinking I'm his ex-wife, licks out my ear as I bleed on the floor. I try to get to the couch, then he puts his hand on my chest and tries to push me back to have sex with me. I freak out, I roll off the bed, I said, get the fuck out of here, get me an ambulance, get the fuck out of here and get me an ambulance before I fucking kill you, get out. Because I said that like that, because I was so loud about it, David now goes, well, whatever. And then he leaves me to bleed out for 2 days on the carpet. He's mentally disabled, but the term they used back in the 80s or the 90s for him was a name, Raymond Christian III is mentally retarded. Actually, he's 50 years old, but he has the mental capacity of a 7-year-old. He walks by the room, sees me covered in blood, begging, please, somebody get me an ambulance, please, it's been 2 days. Somebody please get me an ambulance or get me to the hospital, please. Raymond goes, I can't dial the phone. And David goes, leave him to bleed out. So, at this point, Raymond's all confused, picks me up, puts me on his shoulder, and starts walking me down a flight of stairs. My feet are dragging behind him. He's so strong and big, he's basically just dragging me down. But then he gets me to the bus stop. He literally forces me on the bus. They look like they're about to call an ambulance, the bus driver. We get off. I can't cross the road, so Raymond picks me up again, drags me across the road, and I get in the emergency room. Now, in the emergency room, I can't talk. I'm like, I had a seizure, and my ear got a molestation. They go, what? What the fuck's going on? So they bring Raymond, a mentally retarded man, to describe this. Raymond goes, I don't know. He's just bloody. He takes pills and he's bloody. Takes pills and he's bloody? Yeah, he's suicidal too. So now the doctors have no idea what's going on. They have a retarded man who can't report it. They got another man, 84, who's senile, and I'm reporting all this. So it's not hard to fix. But instead, my father says all my reports are fantasies. So they don't get Raymond help. They don't give David the help he needs. And I am literally released with blood going down my face. My brain is swollen. I can't talk and I can't walk. So I'm in a wheelchair out front and I can't do anything. I can't even dial a phone. I'm just crying and blood is mixing with my tears down my face. My face looks like Frankenstein. My whole body is cut up and scratched up. The nurses go, oh, you need to go in the emergency room right away. They start turning my chair. But they say, nope, the doctor won't allow him to come back. What? We're calling the medical board. And 2 more nurses come over. This is wrong. This guy is all bloodied up. What's going on over here? He needs to go in the emergency room right away. Just look at him. And the doctor goes, no, there's some weird stuff going on. And his father says it's all some game. This Henry Newell says that everything is just a game with this kid. He has 25 years of proof, he says. He sent Social Security records and mental records saying Zach does this on purpose. No, I did not have a seizure on purpose, and I didn't make some 84-year-old try to molest me. But instead, I then have to go back to where the guy molested me to literally sleep in my own bed while there's a man who I'm bleeding, my brain is swollen, and I got no medical care again. And this is all at Frisbee Hospital. But what would Frisbee Hospital have written down? Probably, he arrived not making any sense, he's loony, he's probably on drugs, and we released him. Or he has a concussion, or he probably got into a fight, or something like that. Even though there's blood on the wall, I got 2 witnesses. But the problem is that Raymond is very clearly retarded. That's why he gets Social Security. And David is 84 and cannot take care of himself. The town of Rochester, New Hampshire has put on all the stuff that David needs on me. I have spent every day this week cleaning up feces in the bathroom. Yesterday, I cleaned up a pile of feces in the bathroom on the floor. The day before that, I cleaned up a pile of feces on the floor. The day before that, I cleaned up feces on the floor. 2 days before that, I took a phone record of my roommate pouring his bag feces all over the house because he didn't have a colostomy bag ready in the bathroom like I told him. I stacked up colostomy bags in the bathroom, but he doesn't like that. He wants to walk through the house with poop flying out of him. So he's walking through the house with poop falling off out of his hole, his colostomy hole. And he's pooping on my med bag, he's pooping on my laundry, he's pooping all over the house on the floor, and I took a video of this. He also pooped down the hallway too. He pooped in front of the neighbors' doors, so then I had to take rubbing alcohol and clean up all the poop in front of the neighbors' doors. Well, why do I have to do it? Why can't we just leave the poop in the neighbors' doors? Because it has a lot of dangerous bacteria, and Raymond and David don't wash their hands. So I have to follow these people around, cleaning up after them. I have to constantly call his workers and ask for help. Well, Christine Garber says David is fine to continue hurting me. And they continue to put me in danger. Rochester, New Hampshire, and the Department of Health and Human Services of Rochester have heard my complaints, have heard my reports that David is dangerous and needed help 4 years ago. And the mold is making him worse. The fact that if he had a worker who would work with me, and if they just would take these reports seriously, then I wouldn't be as injured as I am. But remember, a landlord's beating me on the ground when I'm trying to pay my rent. Judges aren't taking video footage proof of me trying to pay my rent. We got them ignoring us and speeding us through cases. I have $0 thanks to my father in these situations. David can't even ask for help or do a proper phone call. So this morning he's doing court stuff on the phone, and I have no idea this starts today. David did not tell me he had court on the phone for a restraining order. I'm the one who set him up with the restraining order, so a Jeremy Munger wouldn't be allowed to threaten us in the courtroom, because when they intimidate David, it works. David doesn't do anything he's supposed to. Not only that, when code enforcement comes by and asks David trick questions like, it looks like that you and the landlord are responsible. Is that what it is? The landlord is damaging the apartment and you're damaging the apartment? David says no. Then you're making a false statement, because the landlord is neglecting his property. We got waterfalls on video coming down the walls. We have video of these people harassing and committing crimes against us, like assault, hate crimes. The landlord even attempted to murder me. He knew my urine was black. He knew my kidneys were failing, and he knew my GI was failing. Because they called, asked why the police were at our house. I told him no, it was an ambulance to pick me up. He asked, why would an ambulance be picking you up? I said, my kidneys are failing, my urine turned black, and my GI has a problem. Literally, as I try to pay my rent, and David just wants me, because David is anti-verbal. He's been intimidated, and they've threatened him so much that David just does whatever the landlord wants. I'll give you an example. One of the neighbors was throwing stuff out in the woods with like a slingshot or something. That must have been on the roof of the 3rd floor, it looked like. But there was a big trash mess out on a steep hill. Now, the landlord went downstairs screaming at the Fat family downstairs. They have a kid, a wife, and they work. But they said no. They said, we're not fucking doing shit. We'll call our lawyers. Get the fuck away from us. Shut the door in the landlord's face. How dare you? Then he comes up to talk to David. He says, if you don't clean up and do my landscaping for me, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to evict you. So you get the fucking clean up that mess. David doesn't drink beer. At the time, I don't drink beer. And even when I did drink beer, I definitely didn't drink fucking Bud Light. What did I drink? When I used to have beer once in a while during like holidays, like during 4th of July 4 years ago or 3 years ago. I think it was called Pabst Blue Ribbon. That was my brand. But no matter what, I'm an environmentalist. I'm constantly cleaning up the parking lot. I clean up other people's cigarette butts. And every winter I take care of wasp hives. Why? Because I'm just a good person like that. I believe in following Jesus in a straight line, and I believe in the 10 Commandments. But now, David is all worried he's going to get hit and evicted, so he goes down on a steep hill on his hands and knees, picking cans up, putting them in a bag. I go, why are you doing that? He goes, I don't want to get hit and evicted because of this. I don't want to be hit and evicted because of this. So when the landlord also has David steal my money because I want a lease, he does it too. He plays a game for 3 days straight. The landlord decides he's not going to show up on rent day. I'm sitting at home. He said he was going to show up to pick up my rent money. He cancels and says, I'm not going to be by. I'll come by tomorrow. I'm working tomorrow. Well, too bad. You got to pay me. So the next day, I take a day off of work. I tell my work I have a doctor's appointment. What I do have. I have a doctor's appointment, but I move it to that day. I call in the morning, and I'm able to move the doctor's appointment to that day. So I call the landlord, tell him he needs to show up because there's a doctor. I go to the doctor's, the landlord cancels, never shows up. On the third day, I have to go to work while injured. I gotta pay my bills or I can't pay next month's rent. So I go to work, I do my shift. Now David can't call me. He can't do anything on the phone. He can't wipe his own ass. He can't clean his own floor. He can't make his own bed. He can't do his own court dates. He can't remember his meds half the time on time. He can't go to the doctors. He can't do anything for himself anymore. It's got to the point where Rochester has me following this man around, cleaning up his feces, doing his paperwork, getting his phone calls done, or he self-destructs and everybody in this building could die. So I'm constantly having to do this. Okay, so what does David do? David literally does nothing. The landlord comes by. David gives him his rent money. He goes, where's Zach's rent money? He goes, well, the landlord knows he has a lease in the truck and he's supposed to be bringing me a lease. I told the landlord he can meet with me at any time he wants. He canceled 2 days in a row, and he does this very often to try to get the courts. He's fucking with us. He wants to get on us on a day so he can fuck us. And it's a whole game, and it's affecting my mental health. It's causing me a lot of stress. It's causing me heart palpitations. It's causing me lost wages, all these type of things. But he just screams at David, go get me Zach's money. And so David then steals my money without my permission. Now, David's had my permission a couple times to pay the landlord and get me a receipt. But he doesn't have my permission to do this. So I haven't prepared David to get a receipt or get a lease, because he's not supposed to be giving him my money. The landlord knows to meet me before I go to work. Now, he could have met me all the way up to 1 o'clock. From 6 a.m. to 1 o'clock, he could have came any time. He could have came any time the day before that, like he said. He could have came any time the day before that. Now, it's the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th, something like that. There's no reason for the landlord to be playing these fucking games and hurting us. But instead, he comes by, and he makes David go over, steal my money, and hand it to him, and then runs out without a receipt. So now I've had my money stolen. He does the same thing the following month. He doesn't show up to pick up the rent the first day. He doesn't show up to pick up the rent the second day. I can't take any more days off, and he sends maintenance to come by. Again, they give him my money. David does not have permission while I'm asking for a lease. The landlord said he would give me a lease. But now he's playing games to avoid it, and he knows if he takes advantage of a senile old man, he can win. And they're still doing it today. They're still claiming that David is fine, and they use his senile behaviors to hurt me. It is driving me up a wall. I cannot take it. It's really affecting my mental health to a point where I don't think my heart or body can take it. Between that, so I got an 89-year-old father that's going to be responsible for the murder and the death of me. I got a landlord playing a senile old man, trying to put all the cost of his apartment on me. His waterfall window rot on the outside of the building, he's getting permission from the courts to have me repair his pipes, repair his window, and this is 3 floors. This is 3 different apartments that have this issue. Upstairs has holes in the window. They got rusty pipes. Downstairs in the hallway, they got rusty pipes leaking into the tiles. But the landlord is using a senile old man's stories his stories. He's paying off under the table maintenance to get witness statements, and nobody will listen to me no matter how many videos or pictures I get. Why? Once again, my father wants to make sure that nobody ever helps me. I can't get medical care. I can't go to work unless I lie to them and well, not really lying. I just tell them I'm disabled, but I don't know what it is. And that's good enough for them. But then as soon as I fall, as soon as I get injured, as soon as I can't do my job, I can't go back until the doctors give me paperwork. But the doctors will never give me paperwork at this rate. So it's a death sentence. It's a death sentence. I've been given a death sentence by my father, my mother, the town of Rochester, and other cities. This landlord doesn't want to take responsibility for his apartment or maintain it, so he wants all the tenants to pay him. And don't forget, this is right after COVID. I'm already getting gouged. My check hasn't gone up. The grocery store prices have gone up. Everything's gone up. And this landlord not only